now let me welcome on to the show Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin, I appreciate you being here, man. What's going on?
No, good to be on with you, Rob. It's that time of the year. We're all trying to decide whether we have our team playing the right way, the way you want them to play. Are they grasping, whether it's your culture or your emphasis on execution, on playing hard, whatever it is. We all have so many things that we need to keep working on so we can build some habits that lead us to where we want to go. So we're just knee deep in that.
So I think this is probably the best compliment that I can give a program. At this point, I don't even really look at the names on your roster. I don't really look at who you got coming in, who you got coming out. I just kind of say, all right, Kelvin's good at what he does. We know that this team's going to play defense. We know they're going to defend. I'm just going to pencil in as a top 15, top 20 team, say you're going to be a contender in the AAC and figure it out from there.
Well, if you were at our practice yesterday, you may readjust those thoughts. I appreciate what you're saying, but it's so hard. It's so hard. And I never take this for granted, Rob, because I'm dealing with, the COVID rule where you allow kids to come back and repeat their year, I think really affects the incoming freshmen. Mm-hmm. Because now you stack two freshman classes together, and that really does impact you. Because normally you'd have a class out and everybody moves up, to a different shelf in the closet. And we've got some shelves that just overloaded. Like we have 7 freshmen. I've never dealt with 7 freshmen. And because we were a veteran team last year, a lot of our young guys, like Jamal Shedd, who's got to play a more prominent role this year. We got to see if he can do it. I think he can, but I haven't seen it. Robbie Armbrester, JVA Francis, Ramon Walker, Kieran Powell, all those kids just need time. They're just not ready. And then you've got the grad transfers. Kyler Edwards, Tajay Moore, and Josh Carlton, and the first thing, and I think this is really important, new guys can't be renters. They can't come in here on a 1-year contract and say, here's what I'm looking for, because I know I'm gonna be gone in 9 months. They've got to have some skin in the game, man. They've got to put a stake down and build a house. Ain't nobody renting apartments here. And so, we're dealing with that a little bit. But all things that this, between conference realignment, NIL, transfer portal, all that stuff, all those things are just so many moving parts. I think what it makes us do as coaches now, we just have to work harder at establishing culture and getting kids to buy in. That buy-in thing is so important. Freshmen don't know what that means, and they don't know what that really means. And then your incoming kids, can you get them committed and really dug in and buy into what your program's about?
Yeah, the one good thing for you guys in terms of developing that culture is you do have some veterans that are coming back. Fabian White, Reggie Chaney up front, Marcus Sasser and Jamal Mark in the backcourt. Sasser is the guy that's interesting to me because it feels like he's kind of on that trajectory that a lot of Houston guys are on, right? They look really good as freshmen. They come out as sophomores and they have a big year. And now that they're upperclassmen, they're in a position where they can kind of end up being that all-league caliber player, maybe all-American if things kind of break out the right way for him. So what have you seen from him so far this fall and heading into practice or starting practice recently? What kind of leadership role has he taken? I mean, look, Quentin Grimes, there's a reason he's playing in the NBA right now, right? So stepping into that role to replace him is going to be a big one.
Yeah, and the leadership thing is his way. DeJon Jarreau was the leader of our team last year. Quentin certainly was our best player. But DeJon gave us, the wind beneath our wings thing, and that's what he gave this team. He had a great spirit. he was naturally born to be a leader versus the other way around. Whereas Marcus is this, sometimes you forget about him because he's so quiet, but he's also a quiet assassin. Marcus is a good guard. We've, Armani Brooks just signed a 4-year deal with the Rockets. DeJon's with the Pacers. Damian Dawson's with San Antonio. Quentin's with New York. Nate Hinton's with the Pacers. So we've got 5 guards, either in or floating around the NBA right now. And you're right, Rob. Marcus is in that group. I would say Tremont and Kyler are they're on a good trajectory. They're just not where Marcus is right now. Marcus is one of our chip on his shoulder guys. He was probably a top 250 guy. No Big 12 teams offered him. Don't think I don't remind him of that occasionally. But he puts in the work. Guys that put in the work, I have a tendency to say very positive things about it. Guys that don't put in the work, you usually get out of it what you put into it.
It does feel like those are guys that you've kind of had a lot of success with, right? Sometimes it's the second chance guys that maybe their first stop didn't work out. I mean, Quentin was at Kansas, right? DeJon was at, I believe it was UMass before he transferred in to you guys, correct?
Correct.
I mean, Kyler can kind of fit that mold a little bit. Marcus is a little bit different, but again, it's someone that was kind of overlooked at the place that he was before. This time it was just high school. Tremont is someone I do want to ask you about because it felt like at the start of last season, he was kind of on the verge of big things. And then, things happened during the year. Last year was a weird season. It didn't end strongly for him, but I mean, he hit some big shots for you guys. So what kind of role are you expecting? I mean, he's had a full summer to kind of get back into shape and kind of get this thing worked out. So what are you expecting out of him?
No, that's a great observation, Rob. He started great and ended great. In between, I will say this, though. We had 2 guys that COVID kicked them in the butt. They got really sick. I mean, high temperature. I remember the Tulsa game last year at Tulsa. We had 3 guys that played in that game that shouldn't even gone on that trip. That's when we had to cancel 5 games. But when you come back, you're not really ready. It took Tremont probably 6 weeks to get back to where he was when we started in November, December. And everybody handles things differently. It's like pain. Pain's an opinion. Some people have a high opinion of it. Some people have a low opinion of it. So, but Marcus, you think about, Tremont, think about the Rutgers game. We were in trouble, to say the least, in that game. And he flies in and makes a culture play. We call those culture plays. You got an offensive rebound and you turn it into a and one. And all of a sudden now, Houston's ahead. Memphis at home, they hit kind of a miraculous shot. They had the ball hit under the backboard, pinballed around and wound up in their best shooter's hands. He makes a great shot, just ties it. So worst case scenario, we're going to go to overtime. But Tremont hits a 40-footer and wins it in regulation. But those are the plays he's capable of making. He and Sasser and Kyler, all 3 of them are in their own way good offensive players, and I think they complement each other. That the best playmaker of the 3 is probably Tremont. The best shooter is Kyler, and the guy that has the most experience in what we do and a shot maker is Marcus. So those 3 guys have a chance to be good. But the Tajay Moore kid from Bakersfield, Rob, he's a dynamic athlete. What we're trying to get him to understand and to buy into is using his athleticism to impact winning, whether it's outrunning somebody for a loose ball or cutting ahead of somebody, getting behind them for a layup, or sprinting down the floor and attack the basket. But more importantly, use his athleticism and rebounding and chase down block shots. We're constantly showing film of him, like LeBron really, whatever LeBron does, these kids want to do. he started that block down shot thing. Been done forever, well, but we get it on film now, right? And DeJon Jarreau was good at it. I think Tajay can do those things, but those 4 guards and Jamal Shead, those five guards will probably get the bulk of our minutes in the backcourt. It's a very inexperienced new backcourt with Jamal, Tajay, and Kyler in different roles. And then Tremon's in a different role. He came off the bench last year, and this year he has a chance to start.
Yeah, you know what's nice though? You say that this is an inexperienced backcourt for you. Kyler Edwards played for 3 years for Chris Beard at Texas Tech. He played in a national title game, played in the Final Four. So, he's about as experienced as an inexperienced guy can get. The one thing I have heard about you guys, and I'm curious just kind of what you have to say about it, is that Fabian White is kind of like the tone setter, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to phrase it. Just the guy that holds people accountable, is kind of that leadership presence. He's not going to be someone that's going to put up 20 and 10 every single night, but he's kind of been the guy for you guys that sets the tone in the locker room and practice and all. Is that accurate? And what can you kind of say about him?
Yeah, Fabian is he played with Devin Davis and Rob Gray, for God's sake. That's how long Fabian's been here. It's his 5th year, and the thing that, Fabian did an interview the other day, and, he said, my freshman year, we won 27. My sophomore year, we won 33. My junior year, won 23. And then last year, we won 27. He said, when you go around campus, everybody that came in as freshmen with me, we don't know anything but winning. And he's learned to identify with that. And I think that's where Fabian comes in. He expects to win, and he sets the tone for the other guys to have the same expectation. He's been our most consistent practice player. We chart how many times you go to the boards on offense and defensive rebounds. We chart how many times you tip it on offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. Then we chart rebounds. And then if you get to a certain point, we have this little bubble thing that we got all these stupid stuff we do, but if you get to a certain number, you get to sign the bubble. The bubble right now from last year is in Columbia, Maryland, because Justin Gorham won all the bubble battles. And this year, the guy that's winning them so far, setting that tone, has been Fabian.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the other guys in the front court, you got Reggie Chaney, you got Josh Carlton coming in from UConn, who I do think that he kind of fits well with what you guys. I've watched a lot of UConn over the years, and he gets to the offensive glass. He's a big body. I do think that he just kind of fits in with what you guys are doing. Juwan Roberts, another big guy you got in, a couple of freshmen. So what else do you see kind of shaking out in your front court? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it does feel like the best guys and the most effective guys in your front court are just the ones that are going to play hard, defend, and go get to the glass.
Fabian has really improved as a three-point shooter. There's sometimes guys can make three. It's really a novelty. You don't want them taking those when it counts. It's because you can make a three doesn't make you a three-point shooter. Fabian, before he tore his ACL, the last game he played was against Memphis with Precious Achiuwa, and Fabian had 18 points and 14 rebounds in that game. So that tells you the level he can get to, and he's improved. I watched him, Marcus. Those two guys have taken a step forward for sure. I can say that because I see it every day. But Jawan Roberts is an interesting guy. He had 14 rebounds last year against Boise State. Boise State's pretty good. Mm-hmm. He was a freshman last year, which means he's a freshman this year. But Jawan's going to be 27 years old, married, and have 4 kids. Before he graduates, he was 17 when he got here, so he's probably in the right class now. But he was on a good trajectory last year until Fabian came back, and then we went Justin Gorham and Fabian down the stretch. Once we got to the conference tournament, then the NCAA tournament. But J1, we're counting on him. We think we're solid defensively. Rebounding, things that we like to do at the 4 spot. although Fabian's the guy that's going to have some 20-point games this year. But Javon Roberts allows us to stay at a good level when Fabian comes out. And then at the 5, you have Reggie and Josh. They're an interesting case study because they both see the game differently. And we allow them to play to their strengths. And then we have 2 freshmen, a true freshman in Javier Francis, who turned 18 yesterday. And then Kieran Powell. Kieran has gotten better. Kieran weighs 205 pounds. Javier Francis is 6'8", exactly, true 6'8". He weighs about 230, and he's got a 7'5.5" wingspan.
Oh.
He and Tajay are a different level athletically. I mean, they are off the charts athletic. This kid dunks everything on the way up. He's nowhere near his surface to even scratch it. He's fun to watch every day, because even though he's not ready to play the last 5 minutes of a tough game on the road, you're not going to put him in that situation right now. But it's fun to see where he's come since June. When he was in June, he reminded me of a baby giraffe. They pop out and flop around, and they can't stand up. And, they look like they got 20 ounces of Benadryl in them or something. But no, he's gone from that to now that, he's blocking shots in practice. He's learned to be the second guy off the floor in the paint. He's learned when to get vertical and when to go get it. But he's a fast learner, great kid. I'll say this about this team is we do have great kids that try to do the things that the staff asked them to do.
So hopefully your season will end up being better than your baby giraffe impression, because that was good. I'll give it about a 7.5 out of 10. All right. Last thing I got for you, and we can end it with this. Saturday, February 12th at 2:30 p.m. Central Time in Houston, and Sunday, March 6th at 11 a.m. Central Time in Memphis. Do you know what those 2 games are?
I do. I know what the last one is. You just said it. I'm not sure about the first one.
It's the two Memphis games this year, Houston against.
Okay.
And those are the 2 games that I've and I don't circle many games on the calendar at this point in the season. Those are 2 games that I've circled. So I know it's the last year that you guys, I'm pretty sure it's the last year that you guys are in the AAC, right before the Big 12. Next year you go to the Big 12.
The following year, I think this year and the next year. Right now, that's what's scheduled. But if Texas and OU go out early, it could be moved up. But I think this year and one more year.
So however it ends up shaking out, those are the way that those 2 programs have kind of developed over the years. Those are the circle games that I have on my calendar. So it feels like that's kind of like a marquee game for the American, right? Has that been nice to kind of see Memphis's development? So look, I'll put it like this. We have an American Athletic Conference game on ABC on a Saturday in the middle of February. That's big time.
Where's that one played at? Is that at our place, that February 12th game?
Yep.
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was on ABC. Yeah. When we got here, we weren't very good for a while. The first year we weren't very good. And Josh Pastner was the coach at Memphis. And then Josh left, is doing a great job at Georgia Tech. And then Tubby Smith, who in my eyes is a Hall of Fame coach, came in, and now it's Penny. So I've seen three different coaches at Memphis, and they're all different in the way they approach the game. The thing that I really admire about what Penny's done is how he's rejuvenated and excited that fan base. I mean, they're lit, as they should be. You get a guy like Imani Bates to come play for you, once every 10 years, maybe, if you're at that level. At our level, maybe not, but their level, they do. And then on top of that, they bring in Jalen Durant. If that's not enough, to bring in Rasheed Wallace. And if that's not enough, to bring in Larry Pridle. Larry's a good friend of mine, actually, though. But, Penny and I have a really good relationship. I think there's, just like all fan bases, I've been in the middle of a lot of rivalries now. That Washington rivalry back in the day was tough. But the Memphis deal is just great for this conference. This conference needs that. It gives us a national brand and a profile that's going up. When I got to the conference, I thought the flag bearer in this conference, the school that carried the flag was Cincinnati. What Bob Huggins did, and then Mick just took it from him and just ran with it. Cincinnati was always the school that, you want your school to get to that level where Cincinnati was. And with Wes coming in there, they're going to get right back to it. They have too much. They have too much tradition, too much history of being really good. But Memphis is the school in this league that creates, I think, the most excitement. Penny doesn't get enough credit for being a good coach, Rob. When you're a great recruiter, then that's what you become. They forget that you can't coach too.
Well, they had the number 1 defense last season on campus. Year before that was a number 5. You can't be that good defensively and not be a very, very good basketball coach.
You can't run your offense against Memphis. Nope. You've got to be really good at figuring out how to get shots and make them. They're solid defensively in their coverages. They disrupt you out of timeouts. They disrupt you on dead balls. Really, really well coached team. And that the kid that doesn't get enough play on their team is Williams, DeAndre Williams. He's a problem. Keona is tough. Nolly, they're really good. It's going to be a chore for anybody to beat that team.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a little in-conference rivalry and a little in-conference. It's been built. You guys played great games the last couple of years. There's nothing wrong with a little anticipation for a big game like that. So listen, Kelvin, I don't know if it was just because I didn't get out to any games last year. There was no fans, what it was, but I don't think I've been more excited for a college basketball season since I've started doing this than for this upcoming season. And a large part of that has to do with seeing what you at Houston are going to be able to do this season. So listen, I appreciate the time. Thank you for being here.
Rob, always a pleasure, man. Appreciate what you do to move our game forward. Appreciate you.
Before we move on, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for Bet Rivers yet, now is the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, it's more secure, and it's more reliable. Now that basketball season is tipping off, get in on the action at betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while I got you here, let's talk about the Field of 68 Media Network, where college basketball matters most all year round. This is a digital media and podcast network that we've been building over the course of the last year. We have shows hosted by some of your favorite players covering the program that they love the most. AJ Guyton hosts the House of Hoosier. Eric Devendorf covers Syracuse on the scorer's table. Dan Dickow hosts the Gonzaga Bulldog broadcast. We have Florida's Patrick Young and Duke's Andre Dawkins and North Carolina's Shammond Williams and Michigan's Stu Douglas and Illinois' Deion Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. We have more than 30 shows right now. So hit the links below and check them all out. And while you're at it, make sure that you go check out the Field of 12 Media Network, your home for college football. That was Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson, and now I'm thrilled to welcome onto the show with me Joseph Duarte, who covers the Cougars for the Houston Chronicle, and my man Carter Elliott of Sleepers Media and the Unscripted Podcast. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Rob.
So I think the biggest question, Joseph, is coming off of the Final Four last season. What is the level of expectation been set for in the city of Houston? I know there's a lot going on. You got the Astros, you got the Rockets, you got all these different sports teams, but I mean, you got a pretty good college basketball program there in a football state. So what's the expectation like? And has it kind of brought in more fan attention the amount of success they've had?
Well, since that run in March, it really has. This is a program that's had a steady climb the last 5 or 6 years under Kelvin Sampson, and he'll be the first to tell you what they began with and what they were working with, and now what they've achieved. It hasn't been an overnight deal. It's been a process, and you look around town in a major city. There's Houston billboards with Kelvin Sampson and the players' faces on it. So they're kind of blanketing the city, and they remind people that it's Houston across their jersey, that they are the city's team. That may rub some of the schools wrong, but it is what it is. But as far as the expectations, if and you do know Kelvin, he's gonna sort of temper them a little bit in terms of his team. He told us recently that last year is over. There's all between the personnel changes and stuff. So he's already turned the page. But as far as the city goes, got a lot of support. They're close to a sellout for season tickets, and that's stuff that hasn't happened here in Houston ever.
It's crazy to think about it, because I remember when they had the Final Four down there, was that I believe it was 2016, and it was nowhere near this level. I remember watching games. I grew up a UConn fan. I remember watching games when they played at Houston, and there would be like 8 people in the stand, and it probably was one of the worst home courts in the country. But look, Kelvin's a good coach. They've turned that thing around. And Carter, let me ask you this. I've gotten to the point, you mentioned tempering expectations, right? I'm not doing that at all. I've gotten to the point where as long as Kelvin Sampson is on that sideline, I don't even need to look at who's on that roster. I'm just going to say, yeah, they're probably going to win the AAC, and they're probably going to be a top 15 basketball team.
Yeah, I feel the same way. When I was looking at the outlook of the Houston roster, the first thing I thought to myself is, okay, I can put out the window. These guys are going to, they're going to play defense hard as hell. They're going to always do the right thing, play hard, and they're going to go for rebounds. And they're going to be all over the offensive glass. And like Joseph pointed out, like Kelvin has basically established that culture for this Houston team, that you're going to play extremely hard and you're going to rebound the basketball. And he has, the pieces in place this year, even with the leaving of Jarreau and Grimes, he still has the pieces this year to do the exact same thing he did last year. So this Houston team is going to do what they do. They're going to rebound and they're going to play extremely hard. And I don't see that changing this year with Sampson at the helm.
Yeah, the guy that I'm most excited about, Joseph, is probably Marcus Sasser. What are you seeing out of him? What are you expecting out of him? What kind of impact do you think that he can have? I mean, this is going to be his team this year, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I think he knew that a lot sooner, because you saw what he did in the Elite Eight, and then in the semifinal against Baylor, 2 20-point games back to back. I mean, this is a guy that the ball is going to be in his hand. He's been more of a where they pass it to him, and he's a shooting guard type. But now that Jarreau's gone, they're going to have him move the ball up the floor. He's going to have the ball in his hand, and I think the biggest change for Marcus is he's got to be more of a leader, and he's admitted that he's got to speak up. And it's this is essentially his team along with Fabian White, and those are going to be the 2 guys. But the kid can score, and he's the next in line of a lot of really, really good guards that Kelvin's brought in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And they also have Tremont Mark coming back, who felt like he had a really good start to his freshman season. It kind of, the freshman legs kind of caught up with him down the stretch of the year. They're bringing in Kyler Edwards from Texas Tech, and that's a guy, Carter, that I know that for a while, that's who Chris Beard thought was going to be the guy that was going to take his program to the next level. And he never quite got there at Texas Tech. I don't think it's a bad thing that he's getting a restart. What are you expecting out of those 2 guys? And how many backcourts in the country do you think have 3 players that can be as good as these 3 guys can be?
Yeah, of course, speaking about Kyler Edwards, after that title game his freshman year, the things that you saw him do, having the ability to score and also the ability to rebound and pass the ball, you kind of expected big things. Didn't really come along, like you said. So he has the opportunity here with a backcourt in Houston where he can have some of that, some of the scoring load taken off him with Sasser and Mark in the backcourt as well. So I really think that they're going to be able to duplicate what they did last year. It's just not going to be at the same level with the scoring of Grimes and what Jarreau did last year. But I think that Tremont Mark has the makings of an NBA wing. I think he could be a 3-level scorer if he can really bring on that outside shot. I believe he shot around 25% from 3 last year, but he's got a lot of time to improve on that, but he has the ability to score the basketball. And I think that he can develop into the next NBA wing out of Sampson's program.
Rob, a good point to what Carter mentioned. Kelvin, at least at Houston, has been one of those guys. It's been a good second chance stop for a lot of guys. Jarreau was at UMass, and when he got into Kelvin's system, look what he did. Quentin Grimes didn't really live up to the expectations at Kansas, or he was sort of that freshman. He was kind of engulfed in everything, and look what he did. So I think Kyler Edwards is the perfect fit for what they want to do here. And then with Tremont Mark, I mean, he got the COVID. It really set him back in December last year, but he had two of the biggest shots late in the season to beat Memphis at the buzzer, and then the tip in there for the Rutgers game. So that kid has a lot of promise written all over him.
Yeah, it feels like it's a little bit of the same growth trajectory that we saw out of Marcus Sasser, right? He had some good performances as a freshman, really came on as a sophomore. I think we can see that out of Tremont. We talk about the guards like that; those are the guys that are probably going to get the headlines for Houston. But it feels like the identity of their team is built around the big guys that they have, and the toughness and the physicality and the defense that they bring. They got Fabian White, they got Reggie Chaney, they got Josh Carlton coming in, they got a couple of freshmen coming in up front. I think it's Kyrion Powell is back. Who are you expecting, Joseph, to kind of take a step forward in that front court? Who's going to set the tone? Who's going to be the star? Who's going to be the leader? What are you hearing?
Well, as far as the star, the leader, you look at Fabian White and what he's done, and this guy, a year ago was sidelined with the ACL, so he came back late in the season. Obviously, wasn't completely healed and sort of picked his moments, but they have him back. Reggie Chaney was a really good addition. And what happened there was he basically took over the starting role in the second half over Bryson Gresham, who they considered their best shot blocker. It was a little weird this offseason. Gresham had another year, decides to just change the scenery. He moves 2 blocks down the street to Texas Southern. So that kind of shows you what they had depth-wise. But I think the key one is going to be Josh Carlton. They've been looking for those big bodies here, and now Kelvin gets one. It'll be interesting. They've talked about getting him into their system, the strength and conditioning, starting to work with him. Kelvin joked, we're not trying to get him on a magazine cover as far as how his body looks. We want to get him on the court and be able to butt heads and get those tough boards. So those are really the 3 guys that they're going to look for. And this is probably the deepest, or at least the best and most athletic front court they've had since Kelvin's been here.
Yeah, he kind of got – I watched a lot of him as a UConn guy, and he kind of got forced out of the rotation a little bit because of the talent that UConn brought in. They're really high on the kid, Adam Sanogo, that they have right now, which is why Carlton is finding a new place to play. But he fits what they want. Like, he'll get on the offensive glass. He's big. He's strong. He's physical. So, Carter, let me ask you this, and we can kind of wrap up from here. I'm curious your take on this too, Joseph. So, Memphis is the team that is getting all the hype in the American this year. I mean, they got Penny, they got Rasheed Wallace, they got Larry Brown, Imani Bates, Jalen Duran. There's a reason why they're getting all that attention. I would still make the argument at this point, you got to bet on Houston to win that league until they don't win that league. All they've proven over the years, consistency, winning, and they're always going to be good no matter who they turn over in that backcourt. Am I crazy for thinking that?
You're not crazy at all. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They get it done every single year. And there have been some talented Memphis classes that came in the past couple of years, and they haven't been able to deal with this Houston team. Now, granted, they're bringing in the likes of Imani Bates and Jalen Duran this year. But at the same time, when you have a Kelvin Sampson coach team and you have 5 guys that are buying in on the defensive end, first and foremost, that's the type of thing that could rattle a team like Memphis, especially a team in Memphis that has issues with who's going to be their, main point guard or ball handler. Like, that's something that Houston guards are going to salivate at the chance to, play against them and rattle them. So, they gotta knock Houston off the top of the mountain first before we just go ahead and crown Memphis, with all the talent. So I'm still picking Houston to win the league.
I'm of the belief you're the champ until somebody knocks you off. And when you look at Memphis, they're that nice, shiny, flashy Bentley, and there's nothing wrong with that because that car will get you anywhere and you'll enjoy the ride. But I think of Kelvin Sampson teams as something out of the Fast and the Furious, a muscle car, and they just they will grind and they will beat you and somehow, some way, and it's hard to put a lot of talent together like Penny has to do in such a short time because you're going to lose these guys, whether it was a Wiseman or whomever. But Kelvin will find a way. And at worst, this is an NCAA tournament team for sure and a second weekend team. But I think you'll see both of them in the tournament. But my money right now is on on Houston until somebody beats them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the program, it's the continuity, it's the toughness, it's the identity of the team that we already know. It's the fact that these guys are going to come in and already know what they're supposed to do. And to me, there's just so much value in having players that are going to understand exactly what their role is before the season starts, as opposed to having to learn it during the season. Now, we might look up in February and maybe Memphis is rolling, and Amani Bates looks like the Amani Bates that everyone thought was going to be the next Kevin Durant, and Jalen Durant is playing like a top 5 pick. And, maybe this take looks terrible then, but it's not going to be because Houston isn't a top 10, 12, 15, whatever team in the country. Right? Exactly. Crazy.
No, you're right.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the time, guys. This was a lot of fun. This Houston program is one where you don't need to know the names on the roster. You just got to know the name on the front of the jersey, and that is Houston. For Joseph Duarte and for Carter Elliott, thanks, gentlemen. This was fun.